Welcome, everyone, to episode 7 of the Mindful Millions podcast. I'm your host, Cristina Perez, and today I am honored to share a conversation with someone who embodies growth and inner work behind financial transformations, Philip Weiss. And did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Perfect. So, Philip is a seasoned transformation guide with over 2 decades of experience, helping individuals and leaders uncover deeper purpose, aligning their inner compass, and building lives rich in meaning and impact. With roots in human centric consulting and a background in accounting, Philip blends strategic insight with soulful inquiry. His work focuses on guiding clients through life planning transitions, helping them not only navigate financial crossroads, but also reimagining their identity, values, and legacy. Known for your empathetic presence and ability to translate complexity into clarity, you're serving as a partner to those seeking their next chapter of growth, resilience, and financial alignment. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background and your credentials. I didn't share those, and maybe some early beliefs about money and your identity, ambition, and worth.
Sure. And thanks for having me, Christina, today.
Thank you so much for being here.
But my background, I started my career as a CPA and a tax guy. And I got to the point where I didn't really like that work that much because of the way that I was doing it. I was specializing in international corporate tax planning. And I
Okay.
just felt like I was telling companies how to shuffle paper around to increase the size of the national debt because it was kind of crazy what we were doing. And
Yeah.
near the end of that, I was writing for the Motley Fool. They used to have online portfolios, and I helped manage one. And during that time, I learned about the CFA and decided
Hmm.
that I would pursue that because that'd be how I could get out of the tax department because you kind of get pigeonholed in tax pretty easily. So I
Yeah, I
got my
can imagine.
CFA, and I was wrote Price at the time. I had started my career transition then, and I was a writer and an editor. And I went to T Rowe and I said, "Look, I want to be an analyst." I'm like, "Well, Phil, you have all the right credentials, but you didn't get them in the way that our people normally do. So you're gonna have to take
Yeah.
like 3 steps back and let's see what happens." I'm like,
Yeah. Isn't
"Yeah,
that funny when you're at a corporate industry like that? That's the politics.
it is." And at the time, we had 3 kids, and
Okay.
that just wasn't going to work for me. And actually, our fourth was on the way, and so I
Yeah.
left. And I went to work for as an analyst. I found myself a job as an analyst, and I covered energy stocks like oil and gas companies, ranging from ExxonMobil, which is an integrated oil company, to
Hmm.
companies like Halliburton that provide services, oil field services, to the refining companies, to the ones that just are exploration production companies, all that whole industry. I covered that industry for 7 years.
Wow.
And I left there
So would
and
you consider yourself an oil expert?
at one
Like,
time, I might have said that, but I don't look. I know more than the average person about oil and
yeah,
gas, right? But I don't know
yeah,
that I consider myself an expert any longer because, while I still pay attention, it's not with the same level of and intensity that I did when I was really deep into that industry.
yeah, working in it.
Yeah. So I had I decided to leave that job and I went to work for
Hmm.
another advisor. And when I went to work for that advisor, my primary role was to be the one managing the investments. And it
What was
ended up,
your title in
I think I
portfolio
was
manager?
chief investment
Okay,
analyst, something
I
like that.
see. Okay,
And ended up wasn't the right fit.
okay,
The person that ran the firm had been around for a long time, but it was purchased by somebody that had come from the broker side of the world.
okay.
And his views on some things just didn't align with mine. So I kind
Yeah.
of take this view that I got tired of working for idiots. So I decided to be the idiot. And that's what ultimately
Yeah,
led me to start my firm.
same.
And and so I started this firm. Technically, it was 8 years ago, but to me, it was really 7 because that was when I decided to make it my full-time thing. And then
What
I
is the name
added,
of your firm?
I'm sorry, it's a prize wealth management.
Perfect for the
And
listeners.
I chose that name very intentionally because apprise means to inform. And I just
Ah,
believe that financial education in our country is poor, to put it mildly.
yeah,
And so I want to help. Part of one of the original motivations was just to help people better understand their finances and not just tell them what to do, but help them understand.
exactly. Exactly. And then empower them to make the decision and then implement it. But
Yes.
I think,
Yes.
yeah, saw the same problem. And that's why I walked away from being a fee-based financial advisor to being a financial coach because I just wanted to focus on financial literacy. But and then I also made it a very low cost because people that are paying off debt, can't afford. And ultimately, I realized I can't reach my lifestyle goals. And I really did enjoy investment management and financial planning. So that's why I ended up becoming an RIA. Similar, you're
And
also an RIA, correct?
that's correct.
Which stands for
And
Registered Investment Advisors for those listening.
yes, and I love this structure of the business. Like I don't want to sell products or anything
Hmm.
else. And the other thing that I added after I started my firm was I became a registered life planner. And I look at it, first of all, I started college as a psychology major. So
It's
that
awesome.
softer side, the behavioral side was always of interest. That's number one.
Yeah.
And number two, I have like all these really technical things, right? I'm a CPA, I'm a CFA, and adding the registered life planner really helped to round it out and gave me that exposure and ways to better manage things from the more holistic side and the people side. And I thought that was really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, I feel like you have the best combination. The RLP is like the CFP, but better, in my opinion. And then the CPA is the certified public accountant, and the CFA is the chartered financial analyst. I've thought about going after that, but that's a three-part exam.
Yes, it was.
How is that
So it was
going through that
interesting.
process? When did you
It
go
was,
through that?
I went through that. So it was 2002, three, and four. Because at the time I did it, you could only take one part a year. Unfortunately, I passed each part, so I didn't have to go through it again. But
Hmm.
when I took the first part, I was still living in New Jersey. Now I'm in Maryland. And I had, we had our kids were young, but I was that was when I was making that transition from public accounting to
Hmm.
TRO. So, and there was a period where I wasn't doing anything while I was making that transition. So I had
Yeah.
time to study.
Hmm.
And then and plus level one, like being a CPA helped a lot because there's a lot of accounting
Yeah.
related concepts. When it came
Right.
time for level two, I had gotten the job at TRO. And what I would do is that I had moved ahead of my family because we just couldn't find a place. So
I
I would do
see.
all my studying when I was in Baltimore. And then I would go
Wow.
home, depending upon when in the process it was. Sometimes I'd go home on Fridays and be home just for the weekend. But as
Wow.
I got more experience, I might only be in Baltimore for 3 days.
Awesome.
But the time that I was in Baltimore, that's when I studied. I didn't really study at home. I made sure I did it so that when I was home, I could be present for my family. And
Yeah.
then the last part, we were all in for level three, we were all in Baltimore. So again, I wanted to be present for my family. So what I would do is I'd take at least 3 days instead of going to lunch. I would stay in
Hmm.
my office, I'd bring lunch and stay in my office and study. And then if I needed to study more in the evening, I would study before I left work and then go
Wow.
home and have dinner and again be present for my family. I didn't want to let my studying interfere with being a dad.
Quality time. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you value presence. That's very cool. I feel like that being present is what is being wealthy, in my opinion. And if you're financially stressed, which a lot of people who are financially illiterate end up being, if they end up in debt or just unable to manage their money effectively, they're not able to be present, I
Yes.
ultimately find. And I guess I also equate presence and peace. And yeah, that's awesome. And the episode theme today is exploring the softer side of money and that registered life planning work that provides clarity and helps people transform their financial landscape and plan, hopefully. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your own personal transformation and what inspired you to become a registered life planner. And yeah, go ahead, and I was just going to add another question.
So I'll tell you like how I got to here. So
Awesome.
growing up in my house, it was the typical family model that you often hear about, where my father was responsible for the finances and my mother was responsible for taking care of me and my sister.
Okay.
But here's the thing, when it came to finances, to say my father wasn't good at it is to put it
Yeah.
mildly. We had unpaid bills, we had no credit, we had no savings. When I was old enough to drive, I remember having to go down to local utilities and pay them because our services were turned off.
And so your mom never handled any money?
Not really, no.
Okay.
And when it was time for me to go to college, I was told I could go anywhere I wanted. And I wanted to be a doctor. And I told you I was a psychology major. And I decided I wanted to go to
Yeah.
Duke. And
Wow.
that's where I went. And while I was there, I did a lot to stay in school. I even spoke to the president of the university and got them to redo things from a financial aid perspective and everything else. And I stayed for 3 years.
Super cool.
And the end of my junior year, I had the money. And I only needed 6 courses to graduate. But we agreed that the amount of money that I owed them, I had to pay the debt first. And then I could come back and finish.
Wow.
So I left school and it was toxic at home. Like it wasn't a good environment for me to be in. So I ended up packing up my car and I moved across the country and I moved to Tucson.
Wow.
And I stayed in Tucson for 18 months. And then I was ready to go back to school. I had had enough to pay off the debt and it was time for me to go back. But I decided while my grades were good, they weren't going to be good enough to get me into medical school. And being a psychology major was going to be more grad school and all that. And I was like, that's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So I decided I wanted to study accounting. But Duke doesn't offer undergraduate accounting degrees. So going back there was no longer feasible. From living in Arizona and working there, I had Arizona residency. I still had New Jersey residency from my family. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd get a better job coming out of Rutgers than the University of Arizona. So I came back home. And I went to
Okay.
Rutgers and I gave myself 2 years. I was working while I did it. And I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you that, well, I had paid my debt and
Yeah.
I wasn't in good enough position still. If you ever saw those credit card checks, well, I use those
No.
sometimes to pay to, they should send them in the mail, like a
Like
check.
balance transfer checks.
Yes. So I would occasionally use those to pay my rent of the house that I shared with other people. I would use it to pay for tuition if I didn't have enough. I ended
Yeah.
school with credit card debt. It wasn't great, but like that was the only way I was going to do it. And it was the only way it was going to get me to where I needed to be. And I ended up school and I looked at how much I had paid in interest. Like, oh my God, I don't make enough to pay this much
Yeah.
interest. So I created a plan to pay it off, which I did.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
while all this was going on, my mom went back to school and she became an
Really cool.
occupational therapist. And I
Awesome.
know that she did this because she wanted to put herself in position where she could be strong enough financially that she could be on her own and leave my father. But unfortunately,
Wow.
my mom didn't take care of herself while she was doing this. And she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer.
Oh, sorry to
And
hear that.
thank you. And that's when we started to learn how bad the financial situation at home really was. Because I
Yeah,
left
when you
out one
can't
thing.
cover medical bills
Not
or
just
health
that, it was
insurance
more.
coverage.
It was more. So I also left something out of my story. So after I finished school, I said I had all this credit card debt. And so I moved back home because I still couldn't afford to get a place of my own yet. And one day I came home and I got the mail. And there were these credit card bills in the mail that had my name on them. But there's only one thing. They weren't mine. My father
Right.
actually forged my name to open up credit card accounts because he couldn't get credit. And I got
Wow.
copies of the applications and one of them, and it was his
Yeah.
handwriting. So I confronted him. He admitted what he did, and I got the cards taken out of his name, out of my name, but they put him in his because he'd been at least making the minimum payments because that wouldn't get me in too much trouble, right?
Yeah.
S-
Because that
So,
essentially would hurt your credit.
right, right. So what ended up happening is when my mom got sick and we found out how bad the financial situation really was, well, those credit cards, now they were
Hmm.
all in collection because he stopped paying them when they were in his name. My parents had to sell their house because they were going to get
Wow.
foreclosed on. And I did what I could to help, but unfortunately, my mom didn't make it. She,
Wow.
18 months after, her breast cancer metastasized to her brain and she passed.
I'm
And
sorry to hear
so,
that.
thank you.
Hmm.
And so now I view the work that I do as trying to help. I work with a lot of women, and I call it women facing new beginnings. And so
Hmm.
my goal is to help keep other women from going through the kind of things that my mother did. And that's kind of my
Yeah.
motivation for who I work with. And
Hmm.
then, the life planning layers into that because when you're going through these transitions and these major things, well, going through your life plan can really be helpful because it helps you figure out what it is that matters the most to you. And that's really what, like, at its core, that's what life planning is about. It's about figuring out those things that matter most to you and
Hmm.
doing them instead of getting to the end of life and having regrets about not doing them.
So what does a life plan look like?
So life planning, it's experiential training. So I've done my own life plan and I've
Okay.
updated, right? Because it's not like it's a one and done thing.
Of course.
And
Like financial
so
planning. A financial plan is never done. I always
that's
stress that.
correct.
It's a
And
never-ending loop.
yes. And so the first element of my life plan is I actually want to create a scholarship for women to go back to school later in life like my mother did. And so I've started
That's
to put some
awesome.
money away and I'm working. I actually was on a trip last week and somebody had a suggestion to me of some place that I might be able to use to help me put something in place because the other things that I've looked at just don't work. So if not, I have to do it myself. So I'm trying to figure out how to do it, but I put some of the money away. And that's really
Like you
something
mean
that I'd like
starting
to
a
do.
charity?
Yeah, like a charity. Yeah, it would be a scholarship. Yes.
That's awesome. That's very cool. If
Thanks.
you need any board members, I'm already on two. I'm sustaining for 1 year for Fresh Start, which is a women's resource center in downtown
Hmm.
Phoenix. Shameless plug. And the other is the 1% Kid Foundation, which is all about educating the youth, but it's literacy in general and getting them into the sport of soccer, which I
Oh,
love.
neat. Very neat.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think I'm sorry if I totally went off on a tangent if you were
That's okay.
if you wanted to continue your point there.
Sure. Sure. So life planning
Hmm.
in itself, it's the acronym for life planning is EVOKE because it's
Hmm.
got like five stages. The first stage is exploration. So exploration is really a, a think big, dream big type of exercise. Like, what is it that would make your most fulfilling life? Exploring things about um, what money means to you, your early
Hmm.
money memories, all those type of things. Then
Yeah.
from there, we go into the V in Evoke for vision. And vision is there's three questions that we ask, and there's some other exercises that we give you. But the three questions are the first one's an easy, fun one. Imagine that money was no object. You could do
Mm.
anything you wanted. What would you do and how would you live your life? Dream big,
Yeah.
right? As much as
Yeah.
you want. But then we start to tone it down a little bit. The second question is this time you go to the doctor and you get the unfortunate news that you have 5 to 10 years left to live. The good news is you're not ever going to feel sick during that time. The bad news is you don't know when you're going to go. Money is part of the equation now. So it's what would you do? How would you live your life? What would you change?
Yeah.
And then the third question is the really hard one. This time you go to the doctor and you get the unfortunate news that today's the day. Now the question
Hmm.
isn't what would you do? Although some people try to answer it that way because it kind of follows from the first two questions. It's
Right.
what did you not get to do? Who did you not get to be? And so and then
Hmm.
we talk through all these. And like I said, there's some other exercises that are part of the process. And we use that
Yeah.
to create a vision. And that vision is not all financial.
Yeah.
Some of it is, but there's other things in life too. And
Right.
it's something that you'd like to do in the next 6 to 18 months. So that's our vision. And like the idea behind that is that if we can put together this vision of these things that you really want to do, it also makes you have more motivation to do it, right? Because we've included those things, they're important to you, and then you can go out and do them. And then
Yes.
the O is obstacles. What could possibly get in the way? And we talk about who could help you, when are you going to do it, how are you going to do it, and what are you going to do to address those obstacles. And remember, the whole time that we're doing this, it's not me telling you anything. It's me
Right.
asking questions and guiding a conversation. And
Hmm.
oftentimes when I do these calls, I record them.
Yeah.
And
How
when the
so? Like,
record
are they
with
virtual?
they're virtual, yes. They're virtual. And
Hmm.
so I use Fathom usually to record. But what's really cool is Fathom tells me how long I've been talking. And when I do
Hmm.
these meetings, I typically don't talk more than 10 to 20% of the time. I've actually had calls where I've been below 10%. So it's me, I'm listening, I'm facilitating. And that 10 to 20% includes me asking you questions. So I'm really not saying very much. I'm
That's
really helping
awesome.
to facilitate you thinking through this stuff. Then after we go through obstacles, then we get to K, and that's where knowledge, right? My knowledge as a financial advisor to help you put together a plan that allows you to do these things. And then
Hmm.
E is kind of go out and to do it and experience your life plan. And
Okay.
when I when I
I
think about
see.
life planning, I think about it like one of the things that I say, I told you it's about avoiding regret, but I also say that we have a team of capital, and
Hmm.
I'm using team as an acronym, which is time, energy, attention, and money. And
I
then
love that concept.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's two reasons I do that. One is that we want to align all those things with our values. But the
Hmm.
other is you can exchange your money for more time, right? To free up time. You can exchange your money to give you more energy by taking away some things you might have to do or think about otherwise. And you can also use it to free up attention. So there's an
Hmm.
interplay between those things as well, which makes it really like,
Trade-offs. Yeah.
yes, yes.
That is awesome. Yeah, I love that EVOKE framework. I definitely needed a refresher on it, so thank you so much.
Sure.
But I'm a certified financial planning professional, a CFP, and the 7-step financial planning process. Step one is understanding the client's goals and values, I think. And I found, in my short career that that step was being like glossed over. And a lot of clients are just like, what should I invest in? And they don't have clear goals and values or vision, I
Mhm.
feel like is what I see the connection between the RLP and the CFP. And I find if it's just like based off of trying to get rich quick, the strategies, one, don't usually get implemented, or even if they do get implemented, they're just not truly aligned, I guess.
Mhm.
And I think, yeah, it's funny that this episode is the softer side of money, but a lot of people have a hard time looking inward or really identifying that vision. So,
Yes.
yeah, maybe you can share your more about your story or a client's personal transformation using that framework.
I'd be happy to. And so I'm going to talk about a client.
Awesome.
And she was actually the first client that I worked on a life with whom I worked on a life plan.
Hmm.
And so the life planning training, there's three parts to it. There's a 2 day training, and then there's a 4 or 5 day in-person training, it's 5 days if it's in person, it's 4 days if it's virtual. And then there's also uh, a 6 month mentorship. And
Okay.
so after that middle part, I came home and I got an email from one of my clients, and she said, Phil, I just took a leave of absence from work. I don't know what it means for my financial plan. I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to work. I don't know anything, but I had to do this.
Yeah.
And I started to email her because she'd emailed me. And I'm like, no, no, this is not the time for email. I called her and
Yeah.
I asked her a little bit more about what's going on. And I said, let's work on your life plan. Remember, I have not really done this. I'm in training and that's it. So we start working on her life plan. And if you go to my website, my life plan from the training I had is on my website because I feel like if clients open up and tell me these things, I'm comfortable telling them about my life plan too.
And we will
So
be
she,
linking his website below in the show notes or wherever you can link them. Go ahead.
sure. And she read my life plan and she said back to me, Phil, thank you so much. I've been sitting here trying to build the biggest pile of money without ever thinking about what it was for, how much I needed, or anything else.
Yes,
So we worked on her life plan. And I'll tell you that not everything has gone exactly according to plan, but it never does, right? Like, you know,
exactly. Yes,
if we do a financial plan, it's like I tell people, it's almost obsolete when we're done because it's not all going to go the way that you want, but it gives us something to work towards. And we're going to revisit it. Like it's a living, breathing document. It's not like a
exactly.
set it and forget it. It's not that at all. So we worked
Yeah.
on her life plan. And I'll tell you, we going through this process, we've become closer, right? You know, we're we're friends now. We're not just
Yeah.
client and advisor, right? But when I look at her, she looks different. When I talk to her, she sounds different. It's very different. It's really because she left that job that she had.
Yeah.
Like here, so here's what was really going on.
Hmm.
She had a job working for a company that was really hard. Like the way that they work their employees, it doesn't have a good reputation for how they work with their employees.
Yeah.
She had she and her husband had two daughters. One had just started college and was going through a lot of things, and she'd be up on the phone talking to her daughter 1, 2 in the morning, which is not an easy thing to do when you have a very demanding job.
Right. Lack of
She,
sleep.
yep, she is the financial person in the family. Her husband doesn't really do much with it, and in addition to taking care of the household finances, they have a rental property. They bought a second one. She has to manage those. She has a lot of things she has to
Wow.
do. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
pressure on her. She's
For
also
sure.
got her parents are divorced, but
Wow.
her mother is in late stage Alzheimer's. She's the primary caregiver for her. Her
Oh my
father
goodness.
has had heart issues. Since we've been working together, he's had a pacemaker. Like, and she's helped, takes care of him. I will tell you, after all this, her brother was passed from um, kidney cancer, and she's trying to help
Wow.
their family. So, like all these other things, right?
What
That
age
she
is
does.
this client?
She's in her early 50s.
Early 50s. Yeah.
So about a year after we did the initial life plan, I got back another email from her. She says, Phil, when I was in my 20s, she lives outside of Chicago. She goes, I'd go to Cub games and I'd see these older women and they'd be taking tickets or working as ushers or something else. She goes, I want to do that someday. So she
Oh,
goes,
that's great.
I went to the Cubs website and I applied. She goes, I go in for an interview. I'm wearing my Cubs World Series t-shirt. I'm wearing my Cubs jersey. And there's all these younger kids there that are dressed like business casual. She goes, I got the job. She goes, I don't know how long I'm going to last, but I got the job. And she goes, there was a concert at Wrigley Field last year. She said, I want to at least work through to that concert. She made it through the whole season.
Wow.
She worked the Winter Classic hockey game at Wrigley Field last year. She worked for them again this year. Recently, she just did a football game there. Like this is not something she's doing for money. But I'll tell you, I
Right.
said
It's a
all
hobby.
that's yeah. But all that stuff that she's going through between her parents and her brother and everything else, this is her release. This
Hmm.
is what allowed, and I actually got an email from her recently just thanking me saying, like, she says, I'm a better mother. I'm a better caregiver for all these different people. I'm a better wife, all these things because of the work that we did. She told friends of hers when I met with them, I went out to Chicago to meet with some of her friends, and one of those friends became a client as well. And she told her friends that working with me on her life plan changed her life.
It's transformational, I bet.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that's incredible work that more people should do before they just think about investing their money. And
yes.
do you also, as an RLP, are you like authorized to also provide investment strategies?
Well, I'm as a
Or,
CFA, I am, so yes.
okay, I see. I see. So it's the combination of those two.
then and the CPA brings the tax part in, the CFA brings the investing part in, and the RLP brings in the personal holistic part. Like that's how I look at
Yeah,
it anyway.
that is awesome. She has definitely the knowledge component in that EVOKE model covered. Yeah, that's definitely super awesome. I am considering the RLP myself. Um,
I highly recommend it.
yeah. And so does she now just reach out or what is the cadence for a client like that? How often do you, let's say, or is it just as life events happen, do you update the plan?
So a lot of it's as life events happen, but there's certain things that they need that that she needs to do. So I will tell you, it's been harder this year because her with her brother's illness, and he passed away within the last month, right?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that's taken her away from dealing. So actually, we're meeting again in early December in a couple
Nice.
weeks from now because she said, I know I've been kind of remiss in taking care of some of this stuff because she had other things to do. And I will
Yeah.
tell you that it's funny. I said that, we become friends and everything else. She goes, one of the times she said to me, normally we would meet for an hour. She said, can we make it an hour and a half? Because she goes, by the time we get to the stuff that we're supposed to be talking about, our call's almost over. And I don't want to give up that part of the conversation. So we just let's
Yeah.
schedule longer so we can still talk about that, all that other stuff. And when she set up this meeting, or she sent me an email, she's like, I know we have to get to this, but we're going to have to do more than once because we could probably spend the whole hour just catching up.
Yeah, that's a really good sign. I do already have some clients that you know, can text me smiley faces also. But I haven't been to anyone's wedding yet, a client's
I did
wedding.
that. I did that. I just did that in a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
So
really?
I told you I lived in Tucson, and my best friend that I had while I lived there, he and his wife became clients, and
Wow.
their daughter is also and their son are also small clients, and their daughter got married, and they asked
Nice.
her to invite me to the wedding. So, and it was in Boulder. So my wife and I flew out to Boulder a couple weeks ago in October and
Yeah.
went to her wedding.
Oh, was that your first time going to a client's
Yes,
wedding?
yes.
That is bucket list financial for a financial planner. Yeah. And so is there any framework that you use? Like, let's say, okay, I had this experience with a client because I definitely take the time in my first onboarding session with clients to talk about their values and their goals. And then I have them reaching out months later, for example, that they want to buy a $38,000 car with an 8.9 or more percent interest rate. And I'm like trying to use, and that's, I guess, the beauty of doing that values and goals discovery at the beginning, that you can then say, if you do that, you're not going to be able to save for those goals and reach those goals, sooner. So do you really want a flashy car or, you know, freedom of cash flow? And ultimately she chose, actually, yeah, she wanted a car that was like 89,000, I think. And we lowered it to 38. So maybe do you have any guidance on how clients can make values aligned decisions?
So I think the life planning really helps with that. Like I have a couple that I've been working with for a while, and actually I went to his retirement party.
Nice.
They
That's
invited
also the
me.
best.
Yeah. And his wife, there's a big difference in age between the two of them. And so she's still working, and again, she's the financial person in the family. He's not.
What's the age
And
gap there, if you don't mind me
it's
asking?
it's 10 years.
Okay.
It's 10, I think it's 10. It might even be 12. I haven't looked in a while. I mean, but it's at least 10 years. It's a big age gap. And we did their life planning work, and there's some interesting things that have come up. Like I said, she's the financial person. So I ask about what are your early money memories? That's a question that I ask clients because I want to understand. Because a lot of times that's rooted in how we think about money now.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is like at the beginning of the life planning process, training, we go through 7 stages of money maturity, which talks about how like what we really want to do is kind of break free from some of those things that we
Mm-hmm.
learned and saw as a kid to
Right.
become where we can become George Kinder, who's the father of the life, it's Kinder Institute of Life Planning. That's who my training was through. He
Mm-hmm.
talks about, he calls it like aloha, right? Where we are willing to share and be giving of our money. And it's not just all for us and we do things for others. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of the progression, right? So, but I asked because I know about this because I know how important it is. And so he has this thing, he wants to pay off their house. He wants to move to this farm. He wants to be self-sustained. Now, I'm telling you, he's retired. He never farmed in his life. But and
Okay.
I found like a fantasy farm camp where you could go and try it out. I said maybe you should try this. I don't think he did, but anyway, he wants to pay off the house and not have that debt, but she
Okay.
doesn't.
Are they
And
fans of Dave Ramsey? Is that why?
no, no, it's nope. But what's interesting is if I ask about his early money memories, then it becomes clear why he wants to do this because he tells the story that when he was younger, the kid growing up, his family they lived in this house, and then they moved out into a bigger house,
Mm-hmm.
and they kept the first one as a rental property.
Mm-hmm.
And then his father lost his job and he had financial difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
And they moved back into that house that they were renting, that they owned, that they were renting. And because of the fact that they had that house,
Yeah.
that allowed them to get through these difficult times. And so his desire to pay the house and to be self-sustainable and all that other thing, all those other things, is because that's what he experienced as a kid. And that's always in the back of his mind that that could happen. And on the other
Yeah,
hand,
I can see.
she's a financial person. And she says, but
Mm-hmm.
my mortgage is like 3%. Why would I want to pay it off too fast?
Exactly.
But
Logically, rationally.
yes. And so, but by doing that, and so they still go back and forth. Like she's okay with paying it off a little bit more, but we were looking at their cash flow.
Yeah.
And what they said their cash flow was, and what we actually see by how much is left over don't match. And so they
Mm-hmm.
have to go back and look. And you're saying, well, how do we decide what to cut? And so one of the answers that I had was think of it this way. We've done your life plan. You've identified those things that are really important to you.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at the things that you want to cut, if they're part of your life plan, I don't think you want to cut those, but find those things that aren't part of your life plan, that aren't that important to you. And that's where we can make the cuts. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
tell people, you want to go to Starbucks and get your expensive latte, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Just understand what you're giving up by doing that. And if that's worth it to you, then go ahead and do it. So that's really how
Yeah.
I try to frame these things is if we've done your life plan, you told me what's important. Is it a lot or is how you're spending your money aligned with your values? I mean, Carl Richards
Mm-hmm.
tells the story that the same thing applies to time, right? If I tell
Right.
you that time with my family is important, and then I go do a time audit, and I find that I'm sitting there watching stuff on ESPN and all that,
Mm-hmm.
well, there's a disconnect there, right?
Right.
And not that you can't do that sometimes, but you just have to understand that if you say that this is what's important, then that's what you do. Like I had a thing last night. One of my sons, he was going to trivia night at a local bar. And
Mm-hmm.
I've gone with him once or twice because it's younger kids and they sometimes want some help.
Yeah.
And they said they were struggling. Could you please come? And I was
Mm-hmm.
away last week and I'm sitting there. I got so much to do. And he asked me to come. So I said, all right, how late are we going to be? He told me, I'll come. And so I went and I joined them
Yeah.
for that. And then I came back and it was a late night, but I went back to work when I got back. But because it was important, my son asked me to do that. I went and did it and said, I'll compensate on the other end.
Yeah.
And at least that way, I'm kind of living my values, right? I'm still taking care of my clients, but I'm also taking care of my family and doing what they ask me.
Yeah. While you're talking about this, I guess the framework you talked about earlier, the team, the
Hmm.
relationship capital that you have, also thinking about that. and how that plays into your financial decision making. Or I guess that
Yes,
should be a big factor in your decision making, along with is it values aligned, values
that's
and
right.
goals. Or I
That's
guess
right.
your goals should be aligned to your values, right? And then
Mhm.
your financial decisions should be aligned to your goals. Um, but that is awesome. Is there a vision exercise? And I guess you definitely gave some of those questions that you give to clients. And I guess a question that did pop into my head as well is, do you work with couples often, or is
Uh,
that rare?
no, it's a number. I would if I looked at my whole client base, there's more couples than people that are on their own.
Isn't it challenging sometimes to work with couples, like you mentioned, where it could be an age gap or just different visions? Or yeah, actually, does has that happened?
It can, but I will tell you that typically when I do this, there's going to be parts of their life plan that are theirs, but there are also
Hmm.
parts that are overlap. It's where I would worry is if there's not some overlap. But one
I
of the things
see.
that I've learned to do is when I'm working with a couple, one of the things I tell them is I want to know who is not the major person in finance in their house, because I want to
Yeah,
let the person that's not go first. But
nice.
I tell them when they start, you're going to go first. And I'd like you partner to listen. And at the end, I'll ask you for feedback, but I don't, but it's that you're both going to get a chance. And I'm going to ask you the same questions. We're going to go through the same process, but we're going to create a container. And first you're going to go, and then your partner's going to go. And you're not going to talk over the other person because it's their opportunity. And I make sure that I create that container first so that they know and then they can hear and when they're finished, when one person's finished, I ask the other person what they thought of that. And if they learn, sometimes they learn things because there are things they don't know. Sometimes they don't because they know each other, they're really in tune with each other. But that
Yeah.
helps a lot. Where I would get most concerned would be if there's not any overlap. And I know I've heard stories, I haven't experienced this yet, where going through this process has led couples to split because they realize that
Okay.
they really weren't aligned. I have not
Yeah.
experienced that yet. I am actually, sometimes it's like, it's a really cool experience to listen to them and they're so aligned. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I guess I just thought of a client that I had, a couple client that I had when I was a financial coach, but they were not in a good financial position. And it wasn't until they were no longer a client, maybe like a year later, they did get divorced. But, and I guess, yeah, I feel like my values discussion could be a lot more in depth. So this conversation is definitely inspiring that. Um, but yeah, is there any main takeaways that you want and our listeners to walk away with from today's conversation about, or maybe even how they can work with you?
Sure. So I think one of the other things that I love about life planning is as financial advisors that are fee only, we're supposed to be fiduciaries,
Hmm.
which means we're supposed to put our clients' best interest first. And I think that going through a life plan really positions us well to do that because if I've done your life plan with you, I know what's important to you. And when I'm
Hmm.
making those recommendations, it's a lot easier for me to make them in your best interest if we've gone through that together like that, because you've told me what's important to you.
Right,
And I think if you're looking for a financial advisor, you want to have something. I'll tell you, I told you I do investing. I don't really talk about investing with my clients
right.
because money is a tool. Remember that. And when
Yes.
we're investing, I'm investing to help you live your life. I'm not out there to try to get the best returns.
Hmm.
Sure, we want
Hmm.
to make money. I understand that. I'm not saying that that's not a purpose, but
Hmm.
if we take too much risk and try to beat the market, you know what's going to happen. It's really
Right.
hard to beat the market, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, the more risk you take, well, when we have a bad market, you're going to lose. And the last call I ever want to make to a client is, that thing that you told me was so important that you really wanted to do? Well, your portfolio just took a big hit, and now I don't think you can do it. I don't want to make that call.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that it's so important to have that discussion with clients. Oh, there's our special guest. There's two of them.
Yes, they are sisters.
Oh, they're precious.
Thank you.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of the concepts that you were sharing, or have you read The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel?
Yes, I have.
Okay, me too.
As
It's
a
my
matter of
favorite.
fact, um, so I told you I wrote for the Motley Fool.
Hmm.
Morgan did too. That's kind of where he got his start. We didn't overlap, but we came close. And I went to a FPA, Financial Planning Association meeting where Morgan spoke. And I
Yeah,
talked to him afterwards. He goes, "Oh yeah, you worked for the Fool," and it was really fun because it was getting paid per click. Like, and so, and like money
yeah,
was very
impressions.
different. He goes, and now he goes, when I worked there, it was still a good place to work, but it wasn't as much fun because we had to be run more like a business.
Right, right. Oh, that's awesome that you got to speak to him also. Highly would recommend his book as well, if to
Oh
anyone
yeah,
who's listening.
that's one of my top that's my top recommendation for books on
Yeah.
personal finance.
And I think one of my favorite quotes in that book is always plan on the plan not going according to plan. And, you mentioned as
Yes.
soon as you're done, it's useless. No, not really. It's not useless. But yeah, I think it always ties back to trade-offs when we're deciding, right? So I think thinking about those frameworks, well, first starting with the EVOKE framework and creating a life plan, that would be awesome. And then when you actually have to make decisions using the relationship capital framework that you described, I thought was so great. Because, yeah, well, it was time, energy, attention, and
Attention.
money.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yes.
money is a tool and we need to give it meaning, which means, yeah, we all value things differently. So I think that's why people need to do more values work, inner work.
Yes. And I will tell you, like I share this story a lot too, is that when we talk about that exchange, right, between time and energy and money and
Hmm.
attention, is when we moved into the house that I live in today, the woman that owned it before us, she had a tractor to cut the grass. Like, I'm gonna buy the tractor from her. I'm gonna cut the grass. I'm gonna save us money. And I'll tell you
Hmm.
what happened is that it was taking me 3 hours. I wasn't even finishing. And the only part of it that I really liked was my kids were little, and one of them would sit on the tractor with me while I drove around.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like the tractor really was too small for the lot, I found out later. But my wife found out that there was a guy in the neighborhood that was cutting the grass for $40. And I'm like, I know it's not going to take him 3 hours, but that's what it's
Yeah,
taking me. And $40, 3 hours, that's $13 an hour. I'm like, my time is worth way more than $13 an hour. And I can spend much more, I can spend quality time with my whole family instead of one kid that's riding around with me on a tractor. So
right.
we hired that guy. I sold the tractor, and
You're
now and
still
somebody else
helping the
still cuts the
economy,
grass. Yep.
providing a job. There's a silver lining there too.
Yes, and it's so much better. I've never thought of cutting the grass since.
That's so
And
funny because my boyfriend is trying to convince me to fire my gardener and buy a mow or like a lawn mower and just do it myself. And I'm gonna tell him this story, or he's gonna listen to this. But yeah, it's been such a great conversation with you. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and why you specifically serve, women. I was going to say widows, but just women who are looking to become more financially competent, it sounds like, and sharing your personal story about how that inspired you and your first client experience. And is there any final words you have for our listeners?
So you did ask me before, and I didn't answer, like, how can people find me? So as I said up
Hmm.
front, my firm is Apprise Wealth Management. So the website is Apprise Wealth, APPRISE wealth.com. And if you go there, you can find out more information about me and my firm. I blog every week. You can sign up for my blog. And if anybody wants to talk to me, there's never a charge for initial consultation at all. I don't charge anybody until they become a client because money is a
Access to
difficult
education.
subject.
Hmm.
Yes, and money is also a hard subject. Like a lot of it's easier to talk about sex than it is about money. Money is like one of those taboo things.
You're right.
And when you choose an advisor, it's a really intimate relationship. You're going to tell your advisor, if you have a good advisor and a good relationship, a lot of things. So you want to make sure
Well,
that you
and that's
pick somebody
some
that's,
clients don't. And I think that's what I really stress in my intros. Like, I'm going to need you to be transparent and engaged for this to
yes,
work, for the transformation to occur. Otherwise, you know, we can push paper.
yeah. It's a really intimate relationship if you have a good advisor. And
Exactly.
so you want to make sure that whoever you pick with, it's the pick to work with. It's the right fit for you. And that's why you shouldn't charge until you agree to become a client because there has to be that
Hmm.
process to make sure that you're comfortable with each other. And it goes both ways, right? Everybody that talks to me isn't the right person for me either, right? It's not like you just
Right.
take everybody that reaches out to you. It's got to be a good fit for both.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Everybody listening, do your due diligence interviewing your advisors. Ask if they are
Yes.
fiduciaries, which means they're going to put your best interest first. And if they're fee only, that means even better because
Yes.
their costs will be transparent. And yeah, you can definitely find Phil's website linked to this episode. And thank you so much for listening. And stay tuned for more. Follow, subscribe, and share. Thank you.